Imagine sleeping in a public restroom with your child, clutching your last few belongings, wondering if tomorrow will be any better. That was the reality for Chris Gardner, a man who had no money, no home, and a toddler depending on him. But he didn't give up. Instead, he chose to rise from rock bottom. He chased a dream that seemed impossible, becoming a stockbroker. His story was so powerful, it became a Hollywood film, The Pursuit of Happiness. This is not fiction. This is the true journey of a man who refused to quit. Chris Gardner was born in 1954, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He grew up with an abusive stepfather, a struggling mother, and a life filled with instability and fear. Despite it all, he believed he could be somebody. After high school, Chris joined the U.S. Navy and later started selling medical equipment. But a risky business investment failed, and he lost everything. With no income and a young son to care for, Chris found himself on the streets. This was the beginning of the hardest chapter of his life. Chris Gardner was born in 1954, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He grew up with an abusive stepfather, a struggling mother, and a life filled with instability and fear. Despite it all, he believed he could be somebody. After high school, Chris joined the U.S. Navy and later started selling medical equipment. But a risky business investment failed, and he lost everything. With no income and a young son to care for, Chris found himself on the streets. This was the beginning of the hardest chapter of his life. With no roof over his head, Chris slept in shelters, churches, and even locked public restrooms. He carried his toddler son everywhere, determined to be a good father no matter the cost. During this struggle, he saw a man step out of a red Ferrari and asked him, "What do you do?" The man replied, "I'm a stockbroker." That moment sparked a dream. Chris began applying for internships at stock brokerage firms, all unpaid. He had no degree, no money, but he showed up every day in the same worn suit, acting like he belonged. Finally, Chris landed an unpaid internship at Dean Witter Reynolds. It was a brutal schedule, studying, making cold calls, and still caring for his son. Sometimes, he had to run across town just to get into a shelter before it closed. He never complained. He worked harder than everyone. He studied charts by candlelight, networked tirelessly, and gave everything he had. Out of nearly 20 interns, only one would get a job. Chris Gardner was that one. That job changed everything. Chris rose through the ranks of finance, eventually founding his own firm, Gardner Rich & Company. He became a self-made millionaire, but more importantly, he stayed grounded. He donated to homeless shelters, mentored young people, and gave back to struggling families. In 2006, his story went global when The Pursuit of Happiness hit theaters, with Will Smith playing Chris. Millions were moved by the story of a man who refused to let circumstances define him. He turned pain into purpose and struggle into success. Today, Chris Gardner is more than a millionaire. He's a speaker, author, and global inspiration. He's traveled the world sharing his message, "You can only depend on yourself. The cavalry ain't coming." His life proves that even when everything is against you, belief and effort can change your destiny. He built a life not just for himself, but for his son and for countless others. From bathroom floors to boardroom doors, his journey is a blueprint of resilience. Chris didn't chase happiness, he pursued it and caught it. If Chris Gardner's journey inspired you, let us know in the comments. What are you willing to fight for, even when life gets hard? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more powerful real-life stories. Because someone out there needs this reminder, rock bottom is not the end, it's a place to bounce back from. Even when the world says no, your determination can say yes. Chris didn't wait for a miracle.